Now, Redefine Properties has posted a positive interim performance. The group's revenue rose by 3.5%, driven by an increase in contractual rent and new lease deals. The group also expects its annual distributable income per share to increase as much as 53 cents. CEO Andrew König joins us now to provide further analysis on the group's performance. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. Let's start off with the improved leasing activity in South Africa. What are the fundamentals fueling this?
Good evening, Zanati. The fundamentals fueling this, I believe, firstly, in the office space would be a flight to quality. As you know, about 95% of our portfolio is either P or A grade. So despite a very difficult letting environment from a market rental perspective, there is underlying demand for quality, which is driving that sector, where we've let during the period about 147,000 square meters. So that's a lot of square meters that we've let. On the retail front, we've been busy with a lot of renewals and new lets. About a third of our new leases that we entered into this period have been to new tenants. So there are new tenants coming into the market, changes of tenants and so forth. That's up to 150,000 square meters of let space. And then on the industrial front, we've got a fantastic occupancy level of about 98.9%, which is almost full. And that is also driven by demand for modern logistics space. So we are seeing some green shoots when it comes to leasing. On the rental side, it's still quite challenging, particularly on the office side, where we haven't seen market rental growth, principally because of an oversupply of offices. But we are seeing positive reversions. These are rentals that come up for renewal, where the new rental is in the positive territory. In other words, it's higher than the expiring rental, which is good news, and has been the case for some time in the industrial sector. Okay. So in all, I think leasing is actually quite healthy, despite the uncertainty around, the trade tariffs and what that brings going forward.
Well, let's talk about those reversions. I think maybe as much as the overall trend is not too bad, but I did notice the negative reversions, particularly on 115 West Street. Is that the main culprit, or does it spread abroad?
So not exactly. It's an exceptional situation in that one tenant, they're occupying a large amount of space, roughly 12,000 square meters, came up for renewal. Now remember, these leases are long-term ones. So in this case, it was a 10-year rental done in a very different market to the one we're currently in. So it's at a high starting rental, escalating at, say, 8% for 10 years. Okay. So it was almost double the market rental when it expired. Sure. And that is what caused such a massive negative reversion in the office sector. If we exclude that exception or that anomaly, our reversions as a group would have been flat with last year.
Okay, all right. Just I think lastly on the office sector, I did also notice that there are new office property developments underway. What are you banking on here? Because I would assume that, as much as there is improvement in the office sector, it will never maybe go back to its heyday. So what are you banking on with these new developments that are underway at this point?
So, Zanati, we're not developing new office space per se, other than completing phases within office parks. For example, at Hartford Office Park in Midrand, where there's big demand for office space there, fueling that development. But the other builds are really refurbs and ensuring that our properties remain relevant to our changing or evolving users' needs.
All right. Well, let's cross on over to your landscape in Poland. I do note that there were some negative aspects when looking at the currency movements. But besides those, there was improvement. So just talk to me about that growth momentum, what it's looking like in those properties in Poland.
So Zanati, our retail portfolio in Poland is doing very well. We've got 5 core properties in the retail sector, like prime properties, currently occupying 99.2% of their space, which means they're basically fully let at a vacancy level of 0.8%.
Yeah.
The forex movements are largely a consequence of a rand that was stronger than the euro up until February, which was our reporting period end. And right now, as you know, the rand has weakened considerably. So for the full year, that situation will have reversed itself.
Okay.
But within Poland, we undertook quite a significant restructure from a property management perspective. And those cost benefits are starting to come through. So you are starting to see distributable income growth that is very healthy coming out of Poland in their euro currency as opposed to a converted rand currency. But as I said, by the year end, that will probably come out in a wash from a currency conversion perspective. So Poland is doing very well. The economy is growing. The unemployment rate is circa 5%. So they have a very different demographic profile and challenge socially compared to us here in South Africa.
All right. Let's talk about asset management and kind of asset recycling. Your acquisitions and disposals at this point, what priorities are driving your decisions there?
So from a capital allocation point of view, we're looking at growth sectors. So right now, you'll note that most of our CapEx committed is to developments in the self-storage space in Poland, where we are growing that platform. And here in South Africa, it is really, as I said earlier, maintaining what we have and making sure it remains relevant to the evolving stakeholder needs and recycling non-core assets as and when we can. Now, these transactions are taking a lot longer than they used to conclude. But what we are doing, for example, is we disposed out of Benmore Shopping Centre in Brighton, which was a mature asset, and we invested those proceeds into Pan Africa Mall in Alexandra, which is actually a vibrant and growing ecosystem from a township retail perspective. So we are switching out of, let's call it mature assets, into assets that we believe are capable of better growth from a capital as well as an income point of view long term.
There was also a softening in your loan to value, but still over 40%. And I am wondering if there is further room to reduce that LTV at this point, and how comfortable are you with the current levels?
So not at 41%, it is just over 41. We are comfortable at that level. Yes, we would like to reduce it, and we will reduce it. And the key to reducing those loan to value ratios lies in simplifying our joint ventures in Poland, and we are putting a huge focus on reducing complexity in that environment, and that will significantly reduce the loan to value ratio down. As time progresses and valuations of property start trending upwards, that will similarly help with the loan to value ratio improving. However, that is more a subtle impact. The big impact is from disposing of joint ventures in Poland, and that is well underway.
All right. Well, we do have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights. They're always a pleasure chatting to you, Andrew. That was Redefine Properties CEO Andrew König.